everyone, I'm Natalie and welcome back to NewsForTeens. To kick off the new year, I'll be starting a series covering key topics and events that occurred in 2023 and how they will continue to have an impact in 2024. This video will be on climate change, focusing on the discussions at COP28 and liquefied natural gas in the United States. COP28, also known as the 20th Conference of the Parties, was a climate conference hosted this past December in Dubai, a city in the United Arab Emirates. The conference resulted in an agreement to historic language addressing the causes of climate change and pledges from countries to contribute funds towards minimizing the impact of climate change. COP28 was also notable due to the increased participation and influence from high-emission countries and petroleum-based industries. In the almost 3 decades of climate summits, this year was the first time fossil fuels was explicitly mentioned in a COP decision text, calling for countries to begin and continue transitioning away from fossil fuels in energy systems in a just, orderly, and equitable manner to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. While the agreement for such language is historic, it's important to note that over 100 countries pushed for stronger language, calling countries to phase out, rather than transition away from fossil fuels. The more strict language was rejected by a caucus of oil-producing nations led by Saudi Arabia. Other key outcomes of COP28 include agreements to fund a variety of climate change funds, each with a specific purpose. Some of the funds include the Green Climate Fund, Least Developed Countries Fund, Special Climate Change Fund, and Adaptation Fund. These funds will help enable more climate action, including aiding the transition to clean energy, implementing climate plans and adaptation efforts, and helping countries strengthen their resilience to the effects of climate change. As mentioned earlier, COP28 also saw an unprecedented level of participation from fossil fuel and other high-emission industries. It's reported that almost 4 times as many fossil fuel-affiliated lobbyists were granted access to COP28 climate negotiations than the previous year. Influence from lobbyists will likely continue in future COP summits, as next year's conference will be held in fossil fuel-rich Azerbaijan. The impact of their presence is difficult to quantify, but could indicate resistance towards the transition away from fossil fuels. Now focusing on the U.S., despite the goal set in COP28, the U.S. has continued to increase exports of natural gas. This year, the U.S. became the biggest exporter of liquefied natural gas, which is primarily composed of methane. Soon, the Biden administration will decide whether to approve the construction of a major natural gas project called Calcasieu Pass 2, also known as CP2. CP2 is a liquefied natural gas pipeline that traverses from Texas to Louisiana. The pipeline is expected to help the U.S. reduce the impact of U.S. sanctions on Russian gas projects, reduce Europe's reliance on Russian gas, and boost the economy. However, there are potential risks. Although natural gas is considered to be cleaner than coal, new studies report that the emissions from methane leaks and the liquefaction process could be comparable to the burning of coal. This means there's a possibility that CP2 could emit more greenhouse gases and have a greater environmental impact than projected. The reason for concern is due to the oversized impact of methane leaks. Methane has a substantial environmental impact. In a span of 20 years, 1 metric ton of methane can cause up to 86 times more warming than that of carbon dioxide. If you're interested in learning more about the key sources of methane and ways to reduce methane emissions, check out this video. The decision to approve the CP2 pipeline is a complex one that involves balancing geopolitics, the economy, and environmental impact. The decisions of both the Biden administration and the government, especially when it comes to natural gas projects, will influence the approval of future energy projects, America's ability to achieve its climate goals, and possibly even U.S. voters in the upcoming 2024 elections. As we move into 2024, it's important to acknowledge that while events like COP28 have a significant influence in the discussion of climate change, these types of conferences are only a small representation of ongoing global efforts. Although progress is evident, greater immediate action is likely needed to mitigate climate change's impact, which is already being felt based on the frequency and severity of extreme weather events, such as the record-breaking temperatures and other natural disasters experienced in 2023. Furthermore, it's helpful to remember that even though we're individuals, our collective and decisive efforts can bring about meaningful change. Through slight changes in our lives, whether it's in our diet, consumer habits, methods of transportation, or investments, we can all take action to reduce our emissions. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something new.